Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. As always, thank you for clicking on this video. Now, at least half of the Resident Evil games have been my favorite games to play, from the original to the infamous Resident Evil 6. But did Capcom drive the final nail in the coffin with Resident Evil 7? Stick around and I'll lay it out for you. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard is a survival horror game developed and published by Capcom. The game was released worldwide for PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One in January 2017. It's the 24th entry in the Resident Evil franchise. First off, the story follows Ethan Winters as he searches for his wife Mia, which leads him to a derelict plantation in a fictional Dulvey, Louisiana, inhabited by the Baker family. You make use of weapons and item crafting in the fight against the family and their so-called pets, which are the molded, which kind of look like regenerators from Resident Evil 4. And instead of being action-oriented, Capcom decided to go back to its roots, with puzzles and making horror its main focus, which is the best decision they could have made. It really does scare. Safe rooms and item boxes are back, along with new tape recorders as a way to save your game instead of those typewriters. And while you don't need to carry around ink ribbon anymore, it still feels so familiar, like you're at home. So while we're on the story, let me just say the story is good. It's what you would expect from a Resident Evil game, with a bit of a paranormal twist this time around. Also, the voice acting is convincing, unlike the previous, and with it being developed by the RE engine, the graphics and detail is stunning. It's also nice to see a familiar face with a twist at the end, but I won't spoil anything. As I'm sure most of you know, Resident Evil has always had a third-person perspective, but you'll be surprised to know that they've changed that completely. You play through the entire game in first person. It's a refreshing change, and being face-to-face with the molded, or even the family members, can be tense and nerve-wracking. It really adds to the immersion, making you feel as if you're in the game yourself. Resident Evil 7 also has decent replayability as well. After you complete the game, you unlock Madhouse mode, which is its harder difficulty, along with items to help you ease the pain in your next playthrough. The same goes for completing Madhouse mode, and after you've mastered that, you can take a shot at running through the story all over again in under 4 hours, unlocking that gold trophy. DLC is also available with 4 add-ons to the story of what happened before Ethan came into the picture, and 2 mini-game modes. Capcom has also teased an all-new short story coming this spring. Even as a fan of Resident Evil myself, I still think number 7 has its flaws. Resident Evil 7 is known for its brainstorming puzzles around every corner. Now, there are a few, but that's the extent of it. A few. I can only count 2 in the entire base game where I really had to use critical thinking, and for me, that's disappointing. When it comes to the story itself, although it's worth multiple playthroughs, I couldn't help but to want more. On your first go, it'll take about 10 hours to complete, and if you're someone who wants to feel connection to the character you play as, you don't get much of that either. Ethan is somewhat bland. He doesn't really react to the situation he's gotten himself into, and you don't really learn anything about who he is and where he comes from. He doesn't really add anything to the story, other than he's a guy looking for his wife. The enemy variety outside of the family is flat. I mean, there is none. Only different forms of the molded, and after a while they got old. There was so much more potential for Capcom to get creative, and for me it takes a hard fall there. Okay, so going back around to the DLC now. One of my biggest complaints about the corporate hold on game developers these days is the fact that they offer extra content behind a paywall. I'll be honest, I did buy the deluxe edition to get the full experience, and I did enjoy the DLC, but if I have to be honest, you're not missing anything if you don't decide to purchase the Season Pass. And all of it should have just been included with the game at release. 2 of the 4 add-ons are just something to pass the time with, and I don't even bother with the pointless minigames. Lastly, it's not a negative, but it's worth mentioning that people can get sick playing this game with or without VR. It can be disorienting at times, so if you're prone to motion sickness, it might not be for you. Overall, although it has its faults, in my opinion, Resident Evil 7 is definitely a game worth playing. I felt like I was playing the original 3, and it's definitely on par with Resident Evil 4, if you've ever played through it on that one. Its soft reboot is refreshing, and I'm really glad to see Capcom make a U-turn back to its roots and bring life back into the series instead of continuing with their action-oriented installments such as RE6. So no, I'm glad to say the Resident Evil series isn't done with yet. So how does Resident Evil 7 sound? Let me know in the comments section below. I'll also answer any questions you have about what I might not have covered, and if you like what I'm doing here, go ahead and click that thumbs up. Also, if you could, subscribe for future gameplay and reviews such as Mass Effect Andromeda, We are only one day away from that, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. So with that said, again, thank you guys for watching. Have yourselves a hell of a day in a good way, and I'll see you all again next time.